Hello, my name is P.J. Wolf, and I am representing the Marseilles United Methodist Church. The Marseilles United Methodist Church has 150 years of history behind it. We celebrated our 150th anniversary last year. In 1867, there was a place on Main Street called Clark's Hall, and a traveling minister from Ottawa came over, and they started a small group of 10 people on the second floor of Clark's Hall. And then they held their services there for 2 years, and then in 1869, they decided to rent the Protestant Methodist Church, which was on Washington and Cole, which is now Washington and Liberty. They eventually, in 1870, joined with Seneca and Manlius Methodist Episcopal churches. And there was one family minister who served all three of those churches. Then they decided that they were going to start meeting in a storefront in what was called the Brick Block on Chicago Street. Eventually, in 1875, they rented St. Andrew's Episcopal Church on East Bluff Street. In 1880, they purchased the vacant Protestant Methodist Church, and they stayed there for quite a while. And then in 1890, they ended up purchasing, at a bargain at that time, 2 lots, the lots that they currently sit on, for $1 each. The reason it was such a bargain was it was a swamp. So the men of the church, by hand with buckets, carried dirt from the bluff down and filled in that swampland and got it so that the church could then be built. The cornerstone was then laid in 1890. And 2 years later, the first church to stand on that site was erected. Trinity Lutheran then bought the church on Washington and Cole, Washington and Liberty now. In 1945, the Manlius Church merged with us, and we became the Marseilles Methodist Church. In 1954, our church was at capacity. There was no room for anyone or anything else to come into the building. We had crisis. So we built an educational wing, and it was consecrated in 1956. In 1957, the 1892 edition of the church was raised, and the current church was started to be built. And in 1958, we had our first services in what was then our new church, which is our current church that we have now. Then several different things happened. We had a minister who was very into the ecumenical part of the town, and we started having cantatas together, all the churches getting together and having Christmas cantatas, all the churches getting together and having worship services. It was a huge thing at that time. Finally, fast forwarding, in 1991, Reverend Dr. David Vosecki was appointed to our church. This man was dynamite. You fell in love with him immediately. The youth fell in love with him. The adults fell in love with him. He did so much with our church for the 10 weeks that God let him serve with us. One of the biggest sorrows of our church was that they were at a board meeting, and Reverend Vosecki passed away at that board meeting after only 10 weeks with us. It was quite a shock. We had quite a few ministers that came in and helped fill the void. We had a couple of ministers who passed through, and then in 2003, the First United Methodist Church in Seneca found that they had a need. And so we had a pastor who suddenly had 2 churches, and our whole congregation changed again. There were 2 worship services on Sunday. We had to sort of bargain on times, who was going to have which time. There were 2 Sunday schools going. There were many different programs going in both the churches, and it became a whole new dynamic for both churches. In 2007, young Pastor Tom Burke came. He went down and he saw the Middle East Conflicts Ball Memorial and said, why aren't we having a church service there on Memorial Day? And so in 2007, that's when that service started. In the 150 years that we've been open, we've had 58 ministers. Our church has had 6 moves. And one of our I guess I would say quaint things, is we had 2 ministers that while they were with us decided to get married. And so Reverend Richard Brewer married his wife Pat on March 1st, 1986 while he was serving with us. And our current minister, Reverend Kiwan Choi, married his wife Dolly Nam on October 12th of 2015. Our current church has a lot going on. We have a Bible Sunday school. We have a United Methodist Women's Group. We have an outreach program that finds out needs within the community and reaches out and helps to support them. We have a minister who is so enthusiastic and so passionate, and he loves this town, and he feels that this town has really greeted him. The thing I think I'm the most proud of is that we are part of the Marseilles Ministerial Association, and that all the churches work together. And it is such a gift because I've been in a lot of other towns where that doesn't happen. And this isn't about us and them, or those people and we people. It's about all of us together being Christians and going forward. We also appreciate the fact that the Catholic Church has the food pantry and that they allow all of the churches to participate in that. It is such a pleasure when we get our 2 months to go down there and be part of this community effort and meet so many people. I'd also like to thank Seattle. I think this is a wonderful idea. And although we have our booklets up here, I have brought one extra booklet with me. And as you can see, there's a lot of people in front of church. And Pastor Troy had this idea that if we were going to go ahead and we were going to be a church of this community, they needed to know that we were a church full of people, full of love. Thank you so much.